Now, this is a trinomial that we're going to factor. There's 3 terms. So when we did FOIL, this is like reverse FOIL. When we would multiply on the other problems, now we're going to take that answer we'd get. This is the answer that we'd get when we multiply and make it look like the 2 binomials. First thing you want to do is look for greatest common factor. If there's something common that you can take out. So x squared, 7x, 12, nothing common there. There's not an x in every term. For leading coefficient is a 1, so there's no number you can take out other than a 1, and that's useless. And it is in order, highest exponent first, then x squared, x, and then constant term. It's 3 terms, so we're going to do trial and error. Now, when that leading coefficient, that leading term has like a number with it other than 1x squared, say it was 5x squared, there's different ways you can do it. You can do trial and error, you can do splitting the middle, but when it's the coefficient of 1 on your leading term, this is the quickest and easiest way to do this. So we want to break this down. To 2 binomials. We know when we did FOIL, the first terms had to multiply to give us the first term here. So x times x is x squared. Remember, when you multiply, you add the exponents. We have all pluses in this problem, so we're going to have all pluses in your answer. So if the last term is positive, then the signs will be the same, and they'll be whatever the middle term is. If the last term is negative, if that 12 were negative, then the signs would be different, because the only way you could multiply to get a negative is if you had different signs. So right here, it's a positive. The only way you can multiply to get a positive is if the signs are the same. We're going to look at factors of 12. So that's 1 and 12, 2 times 6, 3 times 4. Now, sometimes you're just going to see the number. If you don't, just start with 1 and divide 1 into your number, 2, and go that way until you run out of numbers because you start going the other way. Now, this is a plus, so they have to multiply to give 12, but they also have to add to get this 7. And there's only going to be one set that works. 3 times 4 is 12, and 3 plus 4 is 7. So 3 times 4 equals 12, and 3 plus 4 equals 7. So that works. So that gives us our 7x. So we're going to put a 3 here and a 4 here. Now, we want to check it with FOIL. And if you're new to factoring, checking with FOIL will help you to see where the numbers come from, and you'll get better at factoring. So take that time and do the extra check. X times x is x squared. X times 4 is 4x. That's the outside. 3 times x is 3x. That's the inside. And 3 times 4 is plus 12. The last is plus 12. The first is x. If those aren't right, it doesn't really matter what the middle is because something's wrong. And then this combines to give us plus 7x. And that is what we started with. X squared plus 7x plus 12. So it checks. All of this is our answer. Now, when you hit the key to get the answer, sometimes if you miss something and you go to see the answer, they'll have a dot in between the binomials, the parentheses. You don't have to have the dot. It's understood to be multiplication. Okay, here we have 3 different problems to factor. Our first one is going to be x squared minus 14x plus 45. It helps to know the steps, and it helps if you kind of write down the steps as you're doing these. Don't just watch, kind of work the problem as you're going through, because that when you write it, work it, say it, it helps stick in your head. If you just watch it, it won't stay. So there's not a common factor we can take out. There's not an x in every term, coefficient of 1, so we don't even bother looking. It is in order, highest exponent first. It's 3 terms, so we're going to do trial and error. We know this right here. I'm going to show you another way of just writing it. X times x is x squared, so that has to be x and x. So the first term in each binomial has to be an x, because you multiply the first to get x squared. Then the last term, factors of 45. 1 times 45, 2 won't go. 3 times 15, 4 won't go. 5 times 9, 6 won't go, 7 won't go, 8 won't go, and we're back to 9. Okay, now, these have to add, because the last term's a plus, so that means the sign are the same, but they have to add to get a negative 14x. So before, we had all pluses in the problem, so all pluses in our answer. Here we have a negative and a plus. So if that last term is plus, that means the same signs have to be the same, and they're the sign that the middle term is. So they're both going to be a negative. And now we want the set that multiplies to get us 45, and then we add, we get a 14. So that would be 9 and 5, right? 9 times 5 is 45. Now we want them to be negative. So if we had negative 5 times negative 9, we would get a plus 45. And negative 5 minus 9, if we add those, we get a negative 14. So that's correct. So I want a 9 and a 5. And it doesn't matter if you put the 9 there or the 5 there. You're still going to get the right answer. So let's check with FOIL. X times x is x squared. X times negative 5 is negative 5x. Then the negative 9 times everything over there, that would be negative 9x. And negative 9 times negative 5 is positive 45. So that's x squared. These give us negative 14x and then plus 45. So check to make sure all our numbers are the original, all our signs are correct, and that is our answer. So now let's go over here and do the next one. X squared minus 2x minus 24. Again, it's in order. There's not a greatest common factor. It's 3 terms, so we know we're going to have x times x. And there's different ways to factor. You can go to YouTube and see different ways. There's the airplane method. There's the tic-tac-toe method. There's different methods, but be careful when you're on YouTube and looking at different ways to factor. Make sure you use something like Khan Academy or the organic chemistry teacher or something like that. If you're not sure, let me know, and I'll tell you which one if you're asking about one, because I noticed the other day on there was one that was doing things incorrectly, and that's not good. All right, so factors of 24. 1 times 24, 2 times 12, 3 times 8, 4 times 6. And now you don't have to always list them. If you see the number right away, don't list them. But if you don't see it, then list them in order. And then 5 won't go, and we're back to 6. So we need to subtract, multiply to get 24, and subtract to get a negative 2. Now, notice that last term is negative. So that means to get that last term, you have to multiply a positive and a negative number to get 24, negative 24. Now, without looking at the signs, you want to subtract to get a 2, so that's going to be 4 and 6. Now, you know the signs have to be different, so you want to put it where when you add them together, you'll get a negative 2x. So that means it has to be a negative 6, right? Because 4 times negative 6 equals negative 24. And then 4 minus 6 equals a negative 2. Signs are different. Take the sign of the larger. So we want a negative 6 here and a positive 4. If you're not sure, just stick them, but check them. Just stick them wherever, but check them. If you get the wrong sign and the right number, switch the signs. Wrong number, switch the numbers. So let's do a check here. X times x is x squared. X times negative 6 is negative 6x. 4 times x is plus 4x, and 4 times negative 6 is negative 24. So that gives us x squared minus 2x minus 24. So it checks. This, though, is the answer. The check is not the answer. And then the next one, we have, I should do a different color so you can tell. Sorry about that. So these go together, and these go together. Okay, so here's the new one, x squared plus 2x minus 15. It's in order. There's not a greatest common factor, so we're going to have x times x Signs are different because we have a negative 15, so it has to be different. So it has to be a positive times a negative to get a negative. It's either going to be 1 and 15 or 3 and 5. This is a minus, so it has to subtract to give us 2. And we want it to be a positive 2, so that would be a 5 and a 3. Now notice I didn't do any of the writing down, so I want to make sure, doubly make sure that I had checks with FOIL. Because it's easy, even when you know the numbers, it's easy to make a mistake. Think one thing, say another, write another. X times x is x squared. X times 3, negative 3 is negative 3x. 5 times x is plus 5x. Be careful with the signs. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. So that is x squared plus 2x minus 15. And is that what we started with? Yes. So that x plus 5 times x minus 3 is our answer.